All right, it's 4:30, and we are going to call the P&Z meeting to order at this time. And before we move forward, Dorothy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Michael Siegerman,
Here.
David Jones,
Here.
Shane Bourgeois, Tricia Byram, David Lipscomb,
Here.
Hunter Patterson,
Here.
Cliff Tuttle.
Here.
Thank you.
So the first thing on our agenda today is approval of the minutes from June 3rd meeting. Has everyone reviewed the minutes? Does anybody have any questions or changes they'd like to make?
I think it shows you as being here.
It does, and I was going to point that out because I wasn't.
We do have, from the packet that was posted online to the one you have before you today, a couple amendments. Mr. Siegerman was not present at the meeting. One change in the printed, it says Commissioner Siegman called the meeting to order. Mighty impressive. We'll change that to Commissioner Jones.
There you go.
Otherwise, the attendance has been corrected throughout. If there were anything else y'all saw, let us know.
Did anybody find any other corrections?
Signature blank. You
Sorry?
got the signature blank.
We can fix that too.
Good.
Well, let's get we'll approve those minutes subject to all those corrections and make sure they get added.
Motion to approve with changes.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, all in favor, raise your hand. Minutes are approved. Now, the approval of the minutes from our June 24th workshop. I've reviewed them, does anybody else have any questions or changes they want to make? Anything they see? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That minutes are approved. We're gonna get into several preliminary plat presentations. We're gonna go out of order a little bit, and we're gonna do the River Hill Village first, but before we do that, Drew is going to provide everyone here with some information. Just so everyone knows, there's a lot of people here. We're not giving away anything free. So if you came for something free, you missed out. Okay, Drew.
Catch up here just 1 second. So, for the commission's reminder and the public, all 5 of these plats are preliminary plats. As the name suggests, they're preliminary concept plan of the subdivision, looking at the actual layout of the subdivision and conceptual layout of utilities and infrastructure. Then there's a couple questions on drainage. At this stage, typically a preliminary plat does not have a drainage design. Just starting to look into that and what the impact of that design is. Next steps for these type of plats would go through their civil engineering design. That'll be the design engineer working with the city engineer for all those final details of streets, water, sewer, electrical, drainage, and any other impact on the property. From there, they'll go into actual installation of those utilities and back to the Planning Commission for final plat. That will be the plat that gets recorded at the courthouse before those deeds are created, and then we go on to the construction process for those buildings. So these are preliminary conceptual plans, and basically reviewed to the merit of the subdivision code and in compliance with the subdivision code. So I think that may clear some things up for some of the questions I've received in the office by phone or email. I know if there's a few questions and more people have similar questions. With that, I'll go ahead and jump into the Village at River Hill preliminary plat. It's consideration and final action concerning a preliminary plat at Village at River Hill, being 3.47 acres within Tract 5, according to a special warranty deed recorded in volume number 1759, page number 147, and 0.02 acres out of the Greenbelt, according to the River Hill Townhouse Tracts number 2 subdivision, according to the plat of record, volume number 4, page number 45, official public records of Kerr County, Texas, all of which being in the Nathaniel Hoyt survey number 147, abstract number 178, Kerr County. Here's the image of that plat. Zoom in just a little bit. This is 6 residential lots with a new street, water and sewer extensions. Again, drainage has not been accounted for at this point. That'll be the next step of the process in that final engineering design. The preliminary plat is generally consistent with the zoning code. It is consistent with the subdivision code. and staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat with the conditions attached. I'll go through those conditions real quick. There's an aerial of that showing where it is on the golf course in relation to Inglewood Drive. The following conditions of the plat shall be approved and addressed by the applicant, incorporated into the project improvement plans, that civil engineering design, and the final plat, confirmed by city staff prior to those final project approvals, signatures, and plat recordation. Incorporate any unaddressed design review committee comments. That's, again, staff departments and public utilities. If there are any outlying comments that they need to address for those. Indicate the ownership of the green space and maintenance responsibility on the final plat. Confirm all required easements with city staff and utility companies serving the development. Clearly note easements on the final plat. In this case, the sanitary sewer is shown in the green space with no easement. Clearly identify the radius of the cul-de-sac, 50 foot for the paved area, 60 foot for the right-of-way. And then the design storm drain system to meet subdivision ordinance requirements. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions. And I know you have a couple speakers that signed up to speak. These are not public hearings, but citizens can sign up to speak for these items.
So I think what we'll do is we'll have, is there a representative here from the,
Yes.
who is here representing the
You
developer?
were,
Did you need to add anything, Mike, before we go through this?
No, sir. Just here to answer questions.
Okay.
Also, we're the Mike Wellborn, 631 Water Street, Kerrville, Texas. Wellborn Engineering and Surveying. Also, the developer here is Matt Christensen, and he can answer questions regarding non-engineering related questions.
Okay.
Oh, what's the interval on this topo? Do you know, either one of you?
So there should be 1 foot contours, is that correct, Connor?
Thank you.
So I do have several speakers. If is everyone that wanted to speak on this filled out one of these cards. Before we get into the speakers, just to reiterate what Drew has stated here in just simple terms, we're not here to discuss the merits of the plat. We're not here to discuss what's going to be on that property in the end. We're here to either approve or disapprove this preliminary plat, which is based on two things. Number one, is the property zoned for what the developer wants to do on it? The answer to that question is yes. And number two, does the preliminary site plan meet the subdivision code? At this point, it does. As we get into this process, when the preliminary if the preliminary plat is approved, it goes through several phases to get to a final plat, which will have a lot of contingencies and requirements put on the developer. So everyone understand that. We're only considering two issues here. So with that said, the first speaker I have here is Bill White. If Bill
If I
wants
may,
to.
I'd like to defer till the end and let those who have the actual data make their presentation.
Sure, okay. I know Ms. Prohl's here. I spoke to her. You want to speak?
I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. You want to step up and, yes, ma'am. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Starting in.
No, when we get this.
Get her over here to the main.
No, about 3.
Does it make a difference?
You want it over here, Drew?
that's fine.
You okay? Okay.
Martin, can you pull up the video?
My name's Tevian Prohl, and I live at 387 Inglewood Drive. Oh, is the microphone not on?
Yeah, it's.
Okay, I live at 387 Inglewood Drive with my parents, Carl and Nita Prohl. It's in the cul-de-sac portion, so the very end of Inglewood Drive. What you're about to witness is a short video I took, never intending that it would be here. And it shows, I'm going to quickly pan left. This is water flow coming off the golf course after not a substantial rain, but a good rain. If there's any additional water flow that is pushed our direction due to this development, we will have major issues. This is my backyard, and Danny Wheat, who's a civil engineer, used to live at 400, and he had our land surveyed and graded by Maldonado to make the drainage possible and not go in our house. It at times goes in all the way up into this backyard right here. It will go to their back door and in their home as well. That's where the big concern lies. And as I'm sure you all know, in the state of Texas, the way the law reads, if it's the natural land and you're downhill, you have to deal with it yourself. If someone changes the structure of the land, then they are responsible to stop any additional drainage from dumping into your property, which is downhill. On the images that I gave you, one is an aerial image, and it shows with blue arrows how the water comes off and pushes down the fairways and off the fairways into our property now as it speaks. That video in the center of that is 12 inches deep, just so you understand the water. We're talking up to my knees. So that's that. Then there's several still images, 3, 4, which are basically what you saw in the video. Then the image 5 is this right here. And if you look further into this image, you can see 2 trees. The grading and the trench goes all the way to the cul-de-sac. It fills the cul-de-sac on what would be the left or the right side and goes into 2 more drainage ditches into camp meeting. The final image is an image that is of Camp Meeting Creek as it's flooding off of the runoff from 14 alone. The runoff from 13 and 14 both push all the way down. So it's not just my home at 387 that's affected. I know Michelle, who is the start of the homeowners on, I call it the odd side of the street, the 13th fairway. Everyone from his home all the way down is affected by a current flooding issue. Most of them have all done remediation work to have it so that it protects people down from them, but also protects their home. But any additional water that's pushed down from a development will be a huge problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jenny Mitchell.
Hello, I'm Jenny Mitchell, is it on?
Yes, ma'am.
313 Lakewood Drive, Kerrville. I am a resident of River Hill, the River Hill area, and I'd just like to put it on record that I'm opposed to this. I just think it will really devastate the beauty of our golf course, in which all of us as homeowners and golfers truly enjoy. But I do have a couple of questions for, I guess, Mr. Christensen. Would you please explain, will this affect the men's and women's tee boxes on hole number 13? It's my understanding from the way I've looked at the proposed plat, the street will go right through the area where the number 13 tee boxes are located. I'd like to know how that's going to affect that hole. And I would also like to know what kind of housing do you have planned for this development? Is it multi-storied like you were planning over there on Lakewood last year across the street from my house? Or is it single story? Or just tell us about the housing you have planned. Thank you.
We've been working very hard with John Junker, the owner of River Hill, in order to...
Can we get your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Matt Christensen. I live at 2885 Goat Creek Road in Kerrville. John Junker is selling us this property with the conditions that, we work with them in order to minimize any of the impact of the golf course and make the golf course better. It does provide some movement of the tee boxes on number 13, where the road goes through. We were going to put it where the golf cart path comes out originally, but they didn't like that idea. And so we are going to be moving the gold tee box down a little bit further for their requirements. The housing itself is going to be single-story, garden-type housing, 2,000 square foot, rock face, metal roofs. So, any other questions?
Can I just ask
Yeah.
an addendum? Will the golf course tee boxes be hitting over that street there?
Only the men's and the pros.
Well, I have contacted USGA to see if that's even legal. They haven't gotten back to me yet. They're telling me they're researching it.
Actually, it is. There's a lot of golf courses built that way. A lot of the professional and resort courses are built that way. So, thank you.
All right. Neil Powers.
Neil Powers, 2344 Rock Creek, here in Kerrville, also a resident of River Hill, obviously. And I realize this is preliminary, but as I was studying this, I noticed something kind of unique. All the way through River Hill, all of the houses that abut the course, it's the back of the house that abuts the fairway, and therefore you have street, then house, then fairway. And as I looked at this, I realized it's the opposite. It's the front of the houses and the street that are abutting the fairway on 15. And so consequently, when golfers hit off 15, they're hitting downhill anyway. They will be hitting right square to where that street is when you look at it, and then be hitting along that street as they go by. So the rest of River Hill is set up one way, where it's the back of the houses, minimizing possibility of damage and maximizing aesthetics. This is set up exactly the opposite. While I recognize the right to develop the land and for John to be able to sell it, it seems to me that this particular design is not in keeping with the way River Hill was designed, and is really not in keeping with best practices. Thank you.
So before I get to Mr. White, is there anyone else that didn't sign a card that would like to? Before I get to Mr. White, is anyone else that did not have anything to add that has not already been added? If not, Mr. White?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and fellow members of the board. As the president of the Homeowners Association, I think it's important that we articulate our tremendous concern for the drainage issue. It's something that's very personal to many, many, many of our members. And the big concern, I think, that I want to express that I would ask you to consider taking into consideration to ensuring that we have the proper input and say and review mostly, let me restate that we have a definite review piece of the ultimate design when it gets down to drainage. Because I think that's really, really important, and I'd ask your consideration there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get your name and address for a record?
Bill White, 513 Oakland Hills Lane.
One additional comment,
Yes, ma'am?
as Neil stated about the street and the front of the homes, being potentially hit by golf balls, that is a dog leg left. So it goes truly straight in when you tee off, and then your hopeful second shot would be there after it would have landed, potentially going over the street and into the home, and then go to the left. Also, if you reverse the Plat so that the street is on the opposite side of the lot, you have the same issue with the back of homes or the tackier part of a home still facing the club, so that other people that are on the course, live on the course, see that side of the home. Where in the other areas of River Hill, that's not the case.
Appreciate your comments again. We're not here to judge aesthetics, architecture, proximity to the golf course, and dangers to the homes. When you live on a golf course, you have the risk of being hit by a golf ball. As a golfer, I've hit a few houses myself. So, with all that being said, as we said before, and I'll just make a couple of comments before and see if any of my fellow commissioners here. This is a preliminary plat that starts the process. There's like Drew said, a substantial amount of work that has to be done by the developer before we get any further into this process. It has to come back before P&Z and ultimately go possibly to the city council. And one of the largest responsibilities that we will deal with is drainage. We've dealt with it before. We've dealt with drainage as far as even the Lennar project out there. It took them several shots at getting a drainage plan that was acceptable to our development staff, and they protected the future homeowners there by making sure that the drainage plan that Lennar presented was acceptable. So, and they'll do the same thing here. And through the process, if you have any suggestions or comments, possibly you can send them to Drew, and when they meet with the developer moving forward for their drainage plan, that'll be incorporated into that. So, yes, sir. Yeah, no, I did not get it. Greg, step up to the microphone and tell us who you are and where you live.
Thank you, sir. I'm Greg Schrader. I live at 108 Castle Pines. I also am a member of River Hill Country Club, and I live in the subdivision. And I want to speak in favor of this project. 20 years ago, when it was a member-owned club and I was on the board, selling those lots and replatting and selling those lots was certainly a topic of discussion to generate more revenue. In fact, one parcel by the tennis courts was sold to a private individual. He didn't want anything there, so he bought it himself, and now he controls it. The new owners have been great stewards of the club, and I think it's certainly within their right to do a nice development to enhance the subdivision and enhance the golf course. So I would be in favor of it.
Thank you. Anybody else, any comments, guys, before we consider the preliminary plat? If there are no comments, I would entertain a motion to approve this preliminary plat for River Hill Village. So we have a motion to approve. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. So the preliminary plat is approved. Move on.
Get back to 2A, just 1 second.
You want to wait and see who all's leaving, Drew?
Yes, sir.
Somebody pull the fire alarm.
I never did anyway. I could have not been here. I could have stuck you.
Sorry, my man.
All right, we're going to go on now to 2A, Hunter Hill preliminary plat.
Thank you, Chairman. This is consideration and final action concerning a preliminary plat of Hunter Hill.
Yep.
Excuse me, guys. Preliminary plat of Hunter Hill, being out of the certain tract of parcel comprising 10.15 acres in total of the Walter Fosgate Survey number 120, abstract number 138, within the city of Kerrville, the same property conveyed as 10.165 acres to Scott Schreiner Parker, Ernest Clyde Parker Jr. by executors distribution deed dated the 2nd day of March 2021 and recorded in number 1782, page number 580, official public records of Kerr County, generally located at 1126 Jackson Road. This is at the corner of Harper and Jackson. They are subdividing one lot at the corner off of the entire 10-acre tract. The remainder will actually be coming before the commission at a future date as a preliminary plat as well. The preliminary plat is generally consistent with the zoning code and the subdivision ordinance, and staff recommends approval with the conditions attached. And again, just to incorporate any unaddressed design review committee comments into the project improvement plans and final plat to be reviewed by staff on whichever those stages apply.
Were there any responses to the letters that were sent out?
We do not send letters out for plats.
Okay, so we had no
Yeah,
issue.
no responses. Applicant is here if you have any questions for them. Otherwise, staff recommends approval.
Anybody have any questions for the?
Yeah, can you come up? Let me ask you a couple of things, please.
Hunter Schmidt, 1126 Jackson Road.
So you're living in the rock house now?
Yes,
right?
yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Well, I heard your presentation at the Rotary Club, and I was a little bit confused. I came away from that you were gonna develop the street side, and that's not true. I understand that
That's
this.
not true. We're going to sell that off as a single lot.
Okay, but
And we're going to develop the 4 acres on the other side of the house and maintain 4 acres in the house as a whole.
so you have 4, 4, and 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And that's, those homes are gonna be, that you're putting in there, just out of curiosity?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're going to do a street with a cul-de-sac and roughly 12. Right now, we're at 12 lots with a detention for water on. Not for this section. This is going to be one single lot that's being sold off. But on the other side, yes, that'll be
Right, yes, okay.
4 acres
okay.
street. And
All right,
lots.
and then we'll get that as a separate proposal when,
Yes, it's in the works. I believe it'll hit August. P&Z
That's correct.
ish.
okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Schmidt before we? If there are no other questions, then we will entertain a motion to approve this preliminary plat as presented with the conditions.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a
I'll
second.
second.
We have a second. Motion to approve second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Appreciate getting involved. Gonna go to 2B, Comanche Trace Phase 18 preliminary plat.
Consideration and final action concerning a preliminary plat of Comanche Trace Phase 18, 9.66 acre tract of land located in William Watt Survey number 65, abstract number 364, Kerr County, Texas. Being a portion of a called 1,131.78 acre tract of land as described in volume number 971, page number 698, the real property records, Kerr County, generally located at Lower Turtle Creek Road and Pinnacle View Drive. This is the phase that brings Comanche Hill Boulevard all the way down to Lower Turtle Creek. This is currently outside the city limits, working with the applicant on a future annexation. So all comments here are based on annexation, or subject to annexation. Obviously, the lot sizes would not dictate well and septic systems. These would be city water, city sewer. Plat is consistent with the zoning code and subdivision code, and staff recommends approval with the conditions. Again, incorporate any unanswered design DRC comments, clearly indicate the turning radius of the roads in conformance with fire standards, and work with city staff to adjust the lighting on the existing lift station. That's not a plat comment, but just a note. They made a request to look at the lighting around the lift station, make sure it wasn't going to have any impact on the future homes. And so staff started working on that already.
In what sense? In dark skies and?
I believe it's a floodlight on the lift station, just making sure that it's not glaring on the adjacent properties as they get ready to develop these. So
So the assumption is this will only get a final plat approval once it's annexed.
that's correct.
And the water and sewer services are available?
Yes.
Okay.
Or will be.
Will be.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Any questions? All right, now we'll entertain a motion to approve the Comanche Trace Phase 18 preliminary plat as presented.
Also move.
Motion, we have a second? We have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. So 2B, Comanche Trace Phase 18 preliminary plat is approved. We'll move on to 2C, Town Creek Crossing preliminary plat.
Consideration and final action concerning preliminary plat of Town Creek Crossing, 15.03 acre tract of land situated in the Walter Fosgate Survey number 120, abstract number 138, Kerr County, Texas, being a portion of a certain 304.12 acre tract of land recorded in document number 14-05748, official public records, Kerr County, Texas, generally located at Holdsworth Drive near Harper Road. So here's the location you can see there. Excuse me. So the intersection of Harper Road and Holdsworth is here. This will be accessing, street you see is accessing about where the cursor is there.
That's this Dillon.
Yes. The plat is consistent with the zoning code and subdivision ordinance. Staff recommends approval with the conditions attached. And there's the full plat, zoomed in a little tighter so you can see that. Temporary cul-de-sac and the planned future road as this continues to develop. And the only conditions we have at this point are to work with those comments left from DRC review. With that,
Can you go back to the plat, Drew? So the part that's in gray is,
that is Zone A flood zone. That would be Town Creek. Dillon Drive will come down and be paved to the cul-de-sac. That will act as a temporary cul-de-sac. That road will continue with further development once the floodplain design is accounted for. They have not completed that design at this time. But that Dillon Road would give access to the 4 lots that are proposed now. That future road to be built.
okay, that was my question.
Yeah, they've been working with engineering and public works staff on how that's going to work and how that's going to look in the future.
So the preliminary plat includes the 4 lots and the lots in the back? So our preliminary plat that we're considering right now consists of how many lots?
4 lots.
4 lots, okay.
So you have one here,
I got that, I can see them.
small triangle here. This lot comes all the way back. Oh, excuse me. This lot comes to the creek, to this line here.
Right,
So 5 lots.
so the other lot is back here
Thank you, Connor. It
in
is
the
5
flood
lots.
zone?
Yeah, this lot will be
Okay,
back here, that's correct.
What's the zoning there now?
It's all part of the planned development district.
Or that, okay.
This would be, I think this is all the commercial section of the PD that was updated in 2019. Or 2019? Do you want to say anything, Bruce?
I'm here to answer any questions.
it's a pretty substantial change in topography, right, Bruce? From,
Bruce Drakey, 615 Earl Garrett Street. There is a significant change in topography. We have obtained letters from the LCRA for clearance with the road crossing already. I believe that the last changes that Kyle asked for on the construction drawings were sent, so we're 98% or close to 100% on drawings.
Hopefully,
Looking-
I'll have to verify with that.
Right, but those have been sent over.
Okay.
So we're in that process. We do have a proposed contract on one of the lots already. It is all in that PDD. There were 3 zones. One was a mixed residential with a low density. One was a transitional residential commercial. It was really kind of a mix of C1 and C2. And the owner very discreetly picked which uses they wanted in there if they were commercial uses. This section is actually zoned mirrored after C3, but it's not entirely all the C3 opportunities. And so it is planned for commercial and multifamily in this section. We did do
I'm
plans all
sorry,
the way
but-
across. And,
Slow down.
all right,
Where's the multifamily, where are you talking about now?
any of it could be any of those uses. It's essentially
Okay, all
like the C3 zone.
All right, on this, yeah, okay,
Right, could be.
good.
I mean, that's the way the zoning is.
right.
I understand, yeah.
We do have plans that go all the way across the creek. Spent extensive time with engineering and staff on that and private engineer. There are no plans to build that road at this time, but we felt that it was important to establish the right-of-way if that became possible in the future. We didn't want to plat it and then have to go back and how are we going to then fit in a road? Because someday that road will make sense. And so we did that. The 5th lot that's in the floodplain is up against the park, and it's in the zoning. If you look at it, it's really intended as open space. Whether that gets dedicated to the city as part of the park or stays private, I don't know. But there's no there isn't any development plan on, what is it, Lot 3, Block 1?
Mhm.
Is that right? So, and if we look at the zoning map, that's really planned as open space. So, but it's gotta be something, right? Can't just leave it hanging there, so.
Okay. Any other?
I'll go ahead and add one condition to that lot, or to the plat specific to that lot, for that open space or whatever we're gonna eventually designate that lot. We'll need to verify ownership and maintenance based on the plat. And we'll continue that discussion. I mean,
Right, and it's just zoned as open space right now.
Exactly.
We're not planning to sell it or anything. So.
Right.
Got anything else, David?
The dotted line is existing road.
The dotted horizontal line with a 100-foot.
Get your pointer up.
This dotted line is the LCRA easement.
Right. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. That's LCRA, that coming across
Yes.
Right.
southeast to northwest? Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
And then there is, I don't know how well you can see it on your screen.
Okay, come, so,
Come
right
on,
right there,
dotted
what's,
line?
what is that? Is that,
That's
That is
this.
an existing utility easement.
Yeah, sanitary sewer runs up Town Creek right now, and that's essentially along existing Town Creek Road.
right, right.
And that lot 2, Block 1, actually has a lot of frontage on Town Creek Road, and Lot 2, Block 2, also has a very small amount of frontage on Town Creek Road and could also be accessed from Town Creek Road legally now.
Let's go to the aerial real quick, David.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Yeah, okay.
So the sewer line follows closely to Town Creek Road. That lot that's in the flood zone obviously is gonna be in the creek.
Right.
So Town Creek Road's not gonna be abandoned.
No, why would we do that?
Oh, you do strange things, Bruce.
It's not part of this plat.
All right, just getting clarity. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Okay, if you have no more questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve
Thanks, Bruce.
the preliminary plat.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the preliminary plat as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion is approved. So we're gonna go to 2D.
2D, Constantine Commerce Park preliminary plat, consideration and final action concerning the preliminary plat of Constantine Commerce Park, a 14-acre tract of land located in the W.C. Francis Survey number 146, abstract number 137, Kerr County, Texas, being all of a tract of land called a 10.26 acre tract recorded in document number 146763, official public records of Kerr County, and a portion of called tract 3.97 acre tract recorded in volume number 1805, page number 775, official records Kerr County, and all of lot 3C recorded in volume number 7, page 275 of plat records of Kerr County, Texas. So this preliminary plat is consistent with the zoning code and subdivision code. We do have a few conditions to look at. This is an existing cul-de-sac for Chapman Drive. They'll be connecting that cul-de-sac through city-owned parcel. That's this lot here, that kind of boomerang shaped lot. Connecting that street through the city-owned property and carrying into the tract with the public street. You'll see this dashed line here is a dedicated fire access easement. So that there could be a fire lane that actually creates a loop through the property. This would, counting the total length of Chapman Drive and this street, we are over 600 feet. But the fire department nor the subdivision code planning department have any issue with that overall length being over 600 feet. This street itself obviously is less than 600 feet. Continue working with the applicant on the mechanism to dedicate the public right-of-way through the city property, whether that's by plat or by separate instrument. Obviously, that'll have to go through city council for approval. But the plat itself is consistent with the code. And the conditions, too far. Same thing with the previous ones, incorporating any DRC comments that have not been addressed, and coordinate with the city of Kerrville on the dedication of the right-of-way over city property. And that city property is pretty well inundated with utility easements. We've got water lines coming through, significant amount of drainage easement coming through, partial retention pond. So it's not a buildable piece of land, but it would allow connection between the existing cul-de-sac and this property. With that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
We get the aerial back, please. That, what you were just talking about then, is that down at the end of the,
Yeah, so Chapman Drive comes down here to the cul-de-sac,
right, yeah,
and this is the city-owned property that runs down to the river trail. There's a detention pond here. There's
Right.
quite a bit of underground stormwater right here in the kind of corner of the property. And there's water line easements and stormwater easements running through that other piece. So on the engineering side, they've got a lot of utilities to work around for that road, but they'll continue to coordinate that with city engineering.
yeah, just for orientation, that, building 1273 is that empty, old building with the tin roof and.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
And that's located here.
right,
And then another reference for you, the fire lane that you see
right.
lines up pretty well with this existing driveway. Go ahead.
I'm here to answer any questions.
I look forward to seeing what happens here.
It's gonna be cool when we redo that hangar.
You're gonna save that?
Oh, yeah.
Good luck.
We have a lot of interest in that.
Oh, yeah.
Got a great view,
It does.
the back. Any other questions, guys? I have no questions. Okay, we'll consider a motion to approve 2D as presented for the preliminary plat. Motion, can we get a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. Done River Hill, so now we're going to go to the public hearing session here. So we're going to go to 3A, zoning change from R1 to C1, 3210 Riverside Drive. You want to?
3210 Riverside Drive. It's an ordinance to change the zoning from R1 single family residential to C3 general commercial on approximately 0.31 acres located within the Wallace Survey number 112, abstract number A0360, Kerr County, Texas. Again, more commonly known as 3210 Riverside Drive. The applicant was unable to make it this evening. Me and I've been playing phone tag, had some family issues come up. So based on the application, there is no proposed use, just looking at commercial zoning. Since it is adjacent to this quarter property that we removed the planned development district about a year and a half ago to C3, this property does have a piece of property that goes all the way down to the riverbank. So this property is technically surrounded by C3. They're requesting the same zoning, C3. It is consistent with the Kerrville 2050 future land use plan as a community commercial. Staff recommends, I guess I can go through the rest of this here for you. The adjacent properties are zoned C3 and R1 along Riverside Drive. It is, again, community commercial with no use identified. Traffic impact and parking will be determined upon future development. Access directly to Loop 534 will be contingent with TxDOT approval. There is an existing driveway there. I suspect with any redevelopment of the property and rebuild of that would require a new permit from TxDOT. Otherwise, they have access off Riverside Drive. And staff recommends the case for approval based on the consistency with the future land use plan and the zoning. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions before or after a public hearing.
Did we have any speakers signed up to speak on this that were mailed letters out to? None. So we'll open the public hearing at 5:14. Is there anyone to speak on this? If not, we'll close the public hearing at 5:15. All right, Drew, you have any comments? Anybody have any questions? Driveway on Riverside Drive is access to the property.
I actually don't. I'm trying to think last time I drove down there. I don't believe they have a driveway.
I didn't see anything when I drove by there.
I think the existing
none.
driveway is actually I think we referred to it as an alley.
The 3135 property?
Comes back up to the,
Yeah.
yeah. Their existing driveway to the house does come off Loop 534.
So between the property line and the loop, that's all DOT?
Yes,
Okay.
that's, like most TxDOT projects, they've got substantial right of way, especially as you get into the bridge where they've got the embankments that they have to control and be able to maintain.
You go back to that, to the,
There's the land use plan.
that's, this alleyway, that's river access that belongs to that 3135.
That's correct.
Different ownership from 3135 to 3210 though, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So anything that's gonna be done, I mean, approving the zoning change, it seems to make sense to me, but once that's done, the development, anything that's gonna be developed there is gonna have to meet
Yep.
whatever that property is gonna require, and I'd be curious to see what that is, because see,
Yeah, first it'd have to be platted, and then of course go through the building permit and development process. If water and sewer existing are adequate or not, any updates there. Of course, commercial requiring setbacks and parking.
Mhm.
It'll be pretty, obviously a small lot, but be an interesting development.
any questions? So this falls in line with what the zoning is above it.
Correct.
On the north side of Memorial, the same thing up there where the feed store is, that's,
Yes, that's all C3. That dark red is C3. This kind of pink color and across this side of Loop 534. Both of these are C2. C2 and C3 both fall in a line with the community commercial on the future land use plan.
Okay.
So obviously the intersection of the highway and the loop, we would expect a commercial corner
correct.
there anyway. This one just extends that a little further beyond the hard corner.
More comments, guys? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the zoning change from R1 to C1.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion, can we get a second? Motion and a second. All in favor of the zoning change, raise your hand. It is approved. We'll go on to 3B, zoning change from RT to C1, 501 Florence Street.
Ordinance to change the zoning from RT to C1 on lot 19 and part of 19 and 20, block 25 Westland Place, generally located at 501 Florence Street. As the original platted residential lot, the front is Florence Street. As the old TSO office, the front was Center Street. And of course, they're adjacent to Junction Highway, but they do not actually have any Junction Highway frontage. It is consistent with the Kerrville 2050 future land use plan as a part of Strategic Catalyst Area 4. Strategic Catalyst Area number 4 actually spans from the west city limits towards Ingram, almost all the way to downtown along the Junction Highway and Highway 27 corridor. So you've got quite a range from some small community commercial, neighborhood commercial near downtown, through our regional commercial near Walmart and Harper Road, that area, out to the industrial area on West 27 towards Ingram. But this would be consistent as community or neighborhood commercial as C1. It's currently zoned RT. Whoops, too far. To the north, northwest, and northeast are R1A. And then the frontage on Junction Highway is all C2. with the primary access on the local level street, less than a block away from Junction Highway. Don't see any major traffic impact. Their parking is accessed off of Center Avenue or the alley to the back of the property. And the parking will be determined by the zoning code as they go through their change of use and their building permits. Parking will be verified at that point. Just rough calculations, they should have 10 to 12 parking spaces required, and I think they've got pretty close to that currently. So I don't, from the office to the retail, there shouldn't be a significant change in parking requirement. But that'll be verified through the building permit process. And with that and the consistency of the Kerrville 2050 plan, staff recommends approval, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions before or after public hearing.
I have a question. The little strip of land there, right there, where the property almost has a corner on Junction Highway.
This right here,
Yes, what is,
that is a platted alley that runs the length of the block.
that's a city-owned property?
Don't know if it's city-owned or if it's an easement, but it is an alley right-of-way. And I think you can access the car wash. I don't know if you can access much beyond that. Antonio, do you know how far? It does go all the way through? Okay.
It goes all the way to Woodlawn?
To the next street. I don't remember what the street name on the map. So right after Center Avenue, that's the bottom.
Yes, all the way to Woodlawn.
So the property,
I got this.
501 Florence, the property, you actually can use it. It's not part of the property, but it's just an alleyway where it can be used from your property?
Okay.
Okay, that's a question, it's not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. Both the car wash and the previous office building do have access off that alley.
Okay. Did we have anyone respond to the letters to that?
We did have one response. It's in your backup. And the concern was parking based on the email that was sent to the staff.
So I'll open the public hearing at 5:22, and having no one to speak, I'll close the public hearing at 5:22. Any questions for you guys? We have the rep here. Can you give us an idea of what your plan is?
Yes, sir. Antonio Ramirez, 140 Roman Trail. So the intent is to, we own a small retail store, Western Wear store right across the street. And if you look at the map, we're located at 507 on the pamphlet that was provided to the public. So we're going to relocate our business to 501
Okay.
Orange Street. Yes, sir.
You may look at the map in your backup. It's a little larger image.
Is it just gonna be a one business use on the property, or are you gonna?
No, this is just going to be for ourselves.
Okay.
So we're trying to expand our business.
Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
what sort of business?
What kind of business? We do Western wear store, so boots, belts, anything like that really. During COVID, we did more of a convenience store kind of thing because, it was a hard time, so we kind of transitioned to that. So we're gonna expand that. a
Cool.
lot. So it's gonna be kind of like a convenience store, Western wear store.
With a barbershop back.
Hey.
This to me is what a lot of this was all about, to take this RT, this traditional
Yeah.
stuff, and put it into where it's supposed to be. It works out great, that's fine.
I think it's a great idea.
And David, you touched on it, the RT. The new zoning code, this was zoned RT. It was actually a grandfathered office in R1A prior to that update. If you remember the Code Review Committee and Planning and Zoning Commission at the time with the zoning code rewrite, one of the goals was to make sure we didn't create any new nonconformities. So this was rezoned to RT with that full cycle of the new zoning code. Again, the C1 is a neighborhood commercial district intended to serve kind of that neighborhood in the regional area. So the convenience store and the apparel store fit in quite well.
As the plan comes forward for them to use this property for their business, the parking will be part of that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is considered a change of use from the office to retail. So they will be required a building permit, new certificate of occupancy,
Okay.
and through that process, we'll verify the parking.
Great. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve this, zone change from RT to C1 on 501 Florence. Have a motion to approve. Can I get a second? Motion to second. All in favor, raise your hand. It is approved, and we wish you great luck, and thank you for
Thank you.
operating your business here. All right, we're gonna go to 3C, a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at 1221 Park Street.
This public hearing consideration and action to recommend a resolution to allow a conditional use permit for a short-term rental unit on Lot 12, Block 28, J.A. Tivy Edition, more commonly known as 1221 Park Street. Here's the site plan of the property. Point out the driveway is off of C Street. This is an existing carport, and there is garage or carport back here as well. And there's a picture of that, or excuse me, carport and garage in the back. The property and the surrounding property, get back to the map real quick. Along Park Street is all zoned R1. Along Broadway is zoned mixed use. And it is consistent with the Kerrville 2050 plan since there is no change in the base zoning. It is part of that entertainment mixed use area behind it, and of course the neighborhood portion of Park Street. Short-term rental does require 1 parking space per bedroom and 1 off-street parking for an off-site manager. So that'd be required, with 3-bedroom house would be required 4 parking spaces. And again, there's ample parking between the garage and then both sides of that existing driveway. You the applicant? No. Sorry. The applicant is here if you'd like to hear from the applicant.
Did we receive any response from any of the letters that were sent out?
We did. Just a second. And you do have a couple letters, 2 letters in your backup about this case. And one of those letters included 4 different signatures of the neighborhood. So.
So there are 2 letters that are opposed. So I'm gonna open the public hearing at 5:28, and if there is no one here to speak in the public hearing, would you wish to speak during the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. May I speak?
Go right up to the microphone.
Okay. If it's okay, I know it's the very end, but I would love to. I prepared a little something.
Tell us who you are.
Okay. Leslie Barron, 1221 Park Street.
Okay.
Well, I do really appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak today and share my hopes and my plans for my family's home at 1221 Park Street. And hopefully address ultimately any questions or concerns. But I do want to share just a little bit about my background. I think it's important that you know a little bit about me before I dive into some of the specifics about how we intend to use our property. I was born and raised right here in Kerrville. In Kerrville South, I went to Nimitz, Peterson Middle School. I graduated from Tivy High School. I graduated from Schreiner University. And after that, I went to graduate school at the George Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M. After that, I got recruited to work at a firm in Washington, D.C., so made my home there. But make no mistake, Kerrville is and always will be my home. It is true, there is absolutely no place like home, and that is definitely true when Kerrville is your home. There's so much that I love about Kerrville. There's too much to mention here. But very importantly, the vast majority of all of my family still resides right here in Kerrville. And for all of those reasons, it has been a really long time dream of mine to have a second home right here in Kerrville. After many years of planning and saving, my husband and I this past fall were finally able to make that dream come true when we purchased 1221 Park Street. We will continue to reside in Washington, D.C. That is where our work will keep us for the time being, but we intend to spend as much time here in our home at 1221 Park Street as possible. We estimate that will be on the conservative side about 8 to 10 weeks per year. And one day we ultimately, this is a very much a long-term investment for us, we would like to make the home our retirement home one day. When we are not here, we would love to be able to open up the home for others, our home, Kerrville, our community. And we have already, and we also believe it is very much better for our home in the long term to not have long stretches of time when the home is vacant, just for the ongoing care and maintenance of the home. But I think it's important to say that as my family and I do intend to use this home very much for our personal use, a number of weeks out of the year, make lots of hopefully memories in the home. It is, and I want to reinforce, our number one goal to ensure that whoever we would have in our home as guests, take care of our home, are respectful of it, are respectful of our neighbors, the community, and broader Kerrville. We have invested a considerable amount of our own resources in this home already. We have fully rewired the home to bring it up to code. We have just renovated both of the bathrooms, and we have some more projects planned. So as you can imagine, with all of that investment, we are very much keen to make sure that this home is well cared for and well taken care of, both when we are here and when we are not here. To that end, to achieve that, we do intend to require our future guests, hopefully, to follow a set of house rules that would be required. Starting with, even though our home is 3 bedrooms, we intend to set it up for a maximum occupancy of 5 individuals, which will help to limit some of the wear and tear. We will establish quiet hours between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. We are happy to adjust that as needed, as we get feedback or as we need to accommodate. We will require all of our guests park off-street. You already saw that we do have enough spaces to accommodate the parking needs. We will have a very strict, no exceptions, no party rule at our house. Minimum age to book will be 25 years of age. And of course, we will require all of our guests to properly dispose of trash and no smoking, which again will hopefully limit any spillover trash or disturbances to our neighbors. We would also, it's important to us, one of the things I love about Kerrville is how friendly the community is. We will encourage our guests to be the same, to say howdy to our neighbors and hello and be friendly. We are more than happy to provide a copy of all of these rules to our neighbors or anyone who is interested. And should those house rules ever adjust or evolve over time, we are also very much happy to provide copies of that. Lastly, I just want to go through some additional preventative measures that we are taking to ensure our home is in good care and that the home and the grounds are properly maintained. We will post reminders of our house rules throughout the home. We will require a minimum of a 2-night stay, which will help to prevent minimize guest turnover. Our home will be professionally set up and launched. We are working with Dwellwell, which is a very experienced vacation rental company right here in Kerrville, to advise us and make sure we are really getting this off on the right foot. We will have the exterior and the interior of the home professionally maintained. And then, of course, we are more than happy to provide our own contact information or the contact information of the individuals who will be managing the home for us when we are not here. Should issues arise, we are very much happy to. We want to know about those so that we can address them immediately. Finally, I just want to say that I firmly believe offering a well-run vacation rental is an awesome way to introduce other people to our amazing community, to our beautiful town. There are a number of locally owned and run coffee shops, restaurants, activities, all within a short walk or a bike ride from our home. We are excited to promote those. We are fully committed to promoting local businesses, small business, locally run businesses, and we absolutely will do that through our recommendations that we provide to our guests, as we do when we are here. So I just want to, in closing, say thank you for the opportunity, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I have
I
one.
think there's,
You've
yes.
restricted smoking. What about alcohol?
You know, I think we would be open to that based on recommendations. My husband and I really aren't a big drinker, so it's not something we've really thought through. But we would be very open to hearing a recommendation on that. But I do want to reinforce that we will have a very, very strict no party rule.
Anybody else?
Are you familiar with this dwell? Well,
Yes. They've had, I don't know how many they have. They do operate a couple of their own. And then they do management for at least a handful of others that I'm aware of. Some are zoned RT, some are outside the city limits.
That's right.
I don't know if you know how many they have
They're
actually.
located here locally in Kerrville?
Yes.
That's right, based in Kerrville.
Yeah, Kim Richards is the
I
one
know
that
Kim.
operates that.
Yeah.
She's
She's
also
good.
been our general contractor, helping us it was important for us right from the start to set up this home the right way, make sure we are getting, preventing as many issues from, soup to nuts, the way that the house functions, all the way through to the way it's maintained and the experience that we have.
He's
and
a
our
good
guests have.
person.
just painting with a broad brush, you're of course an absentee owner, I mean, in the sense of geographic. And so the local representation would have to be someone that you'd really, that we're gonna be comfortable with and whatever else.
Yes, and
Respond to your obvious, well thought out rules and regs. The other thing, have you contacted any of the neighbors? Have you talked to the neighbors?
we have not yet. Because of the pandemic, we do, as you know, reside in Washington, D.C. We have not had much of an opportunity to be here until really now. So we've been trying to do a lot of our, the work that we've needed to do to repair the property and to start to bring it up to code. We've been doing that from a distance, but that is all what we are hoping to do now. And we are very much looking forward to building those relationships and to having those
Do
conversations.
you have copies of the two neighbors that sent letters that were in opposition to this? Maybe you could provide that to her so she could
We can do that.
provide them, if you choose, your
Of
contact
course.
information and.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, I
Okay.
actually did forget to say one thing. Just, I don't know if, noise or anything is a primary concern, but we have no intention now or in the future to put in a swimming pool or an outdoor hot tub. I know those are very popular with vacation rentals, but that is not in our plan. It's not something we like or enjoy, so we don't have any plans to put that in the house, which will hopefully help with the exterior noise as well.
I mean, my comment is, we've looked at, since I've been back on P and Z, we've looked at probably 7 or 8 of these, and there were a couple that I did not think, I voted against because I didn't like the neighborhood where they were. I didn't think they were in a good situation. I've looked at this property and it's everything she says it is. I mean, it is within walking distance of so many things, and it's on a corner and it has a lot of room around it, and I mean, I think it's probably a good spot for one of these if we're going to have them. So that being said, any other questions?
No, I will make a comment too. I looked on the internet and found some interior photos of your redo, and they look nice.
Oh, thank you. We've been pouring our heart and soul into
I mean,
it,
if
so
you
I
went and
really
took a look
appreciate
at this,
that.
right across the street, there's 3 or 4 little houses being built
Yes,
right
it's
now.
4, yes.
And they
4 right
appear that's
across.
what they're going to be. They're going to be. I don't know if they're going to be for sale for owner user or they're
I
going
don't
to
know. Actually, I haven't talked to the developer to see if they're gonna, what their goal is, other than just.
Who is it? You know?
There are renderings up on the street, and it
Yeah,
does say
yeah.
for sale.
be. Yeah, they're right here. There's 2 here. There's 1 here.
It's
There's 2 on the other
Larry
side.
Howard and Dan Kirkendall.
Yeah. So they are for sale.
Yeah, they replatted 2 lots, I think it was close to 2 lots, into 4 lots fronting C Street instead. So the original lots fronted Park Street like this property, and they rotated them to get 4 lots.
Right, to get other.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen that, or is it, or is
It's
that within purview?
probably 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, it's probably done.
It's been a
already.
while.
Yeah, they're under vertical construction.
Okay.
Any other comments, guys? If not, let me we'll close the public hearing at 5:39. If you have any questions for Drew, or you have any more comments, Drew?
Recommended conditions are the standards that we've put together for the conditional use permit, the guest notification, reiterating that occupancy taxes are required for any stay less than 30 days. If they choose to put up signage, it includes requirements there. Minimum off-street parking, just reiterating that in the resolution. Maximum occupancy from a code standpoint is 10 guests. Obviously, they can have more restrictive house rules. And then the default, any other zoning regulations still apply.
So you guys are familiar with what the city requires for a short-term rental?
Yes, we are, sir.
All right. Anything else? And I'll entertain a motion, one way or another, to approve this conditional use permit. We have a motion to approve. We have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. This conditional use permit is approved for 1221 Park Street. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
you.
it. Hope you spend a lot more time here.
Yes, that is our plan. Thank you.
You got anything else for us, Drew?
Nope, just a placeholder to see if there was any follow-up on the subdivision code. If you had any quick questions or something we can jot down to make sure we present on the 15th. It's not, no action, just want to go ahead and post that as an opportunity to have additional dialogue if you have any questions so far.
On the 15th.
We've got it posted today if you have anything you want to throw at me today. But we will have our full discussion and action on the 15th. That's correct. Commissioner Lipscomb's had a couple questions. He's shot over the bow. We've had some dialogue back and forth. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email us. Call me, come by the office and see if you can catch me.
Anybody got anything else? You got anything else, Bruce? Right.
Next meeting is July 15th for the subdivision ordinance, and then regular scheduled meeting August 15th.
Make sure Bruce gets notice so he's here. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You've been noticed.
And a hammock hooks up.